Hey, today's guest is Austin Chrislock, the CTO of Glui, a UX-first AdTech that's turning banners into interactive micro interfaces. They've even got a mascot, Mr. Glui, to keep things fun, and I love it. We talked ads, AI, privacy, and where the internet's headed. Let's dive in. Austin, I was checking your background for a bit, looking into your past in a sense, and there's an interesting mix there. You got project management, you've got systems, data, and now you're building this playful UX-first, fun ad tech at Glui. Was that entire background a straight line, or was it a pivot?
Definitely not. I'm always looking for problems, and that's a common theme amongst what I've done in my life. And I like to try to solve those problems. And as a avid internet user myself, I always felt like display ads online were kind of a problem to me. I'll be the first one to say it. I've been a ad blocker user since I was very young. I've always tried to get all my friends and family to use ad blockers too. I'm like, here, the FBI uses ad blockers. Like, you should definitely use it. But look at me now, I'm working in display advertising. So because I feel like it's a space that's ripe for disruption. Display ads were invented in 1994, and they really haven't changed much since. So I really thought it was a space that I could apply myself in and, apply my knowledge of data analytics. It's a really easy space to get a lot of data in. You're serving ads to millions of people at one time. So you can get millions of data points instantly. And you can use that data to, analyze human behavior and get a kind of a window into the world and look for possible opportunities. So I guess that's what kind of brings all those things together for me.
Did you have a specific moment where you realized, like, hey, ads need to change and I can do something about it? Or was it more of a growing thing?
I mean, so, I was an early user of YouTube. I think my YouTube channel is maybe 15, 16 years old now or something. And I remember when YouTube introduced ads before videos. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. Like, what am I going to do? I have to watch this, 10-second, 15-second ad before I watch my content. I realized that, this is not going to stop. These platforms are going to keep pushing ads wherever they can because it is how they make money. And I realized that, this is something that needs to change. I need to make ads better because I don't see it stopping anymore in the future. I think, you see a lot of social media platforms as well as Google, they are really pushing to, feed you relevant ads anywhere they can. So why not improve those? Why not make those better? And that's what we're trying to do at Glui.
Makes sense. It's there's two sides, it seems. Whenever we talk about ads, I've picked that there's some people around me that are very negatively looking at ads, but also I know quite a lot of people, and I do include myself sometimes in these, that a good place ad for something I'm interested in, and like an ad that I go and say, that's not just it's just not just an ad, it's something other. It is a positive thing. Recently, I was traveling and my feet hurted so much. I was walking around a lot and I needed new shoes. I definitely needed it. I don't know, just by thinking of it, some ads started showing and I got into this whole barefoot movement thing, like good for your feet and stuff. And, that came from an ad. So I guess that's how it should work,
those
isn't
shoes that allow your toes to kind of spread out in them and you get the natural feel? Okay, I've seen those. I want to try those out myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got very thin soles, and also they have a wider toe box on the front, so you can your feet don't get your toes don't get all crushed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I'm still waiting for mine to come. Shipping could be a bit faster, but that's life.
Well, that's the next thing to improve. I really think, like you said, that ad was relevant to you in that moment, and that's often probably the most important thing that a lot of advertisers try to go for. Advertisers don't want to be showing you ads that aren't relevant or not important to you. That's what they're trying to avoid, because they want to get you at that moment that you're thinking about that product. You're thinking about a solution for something. I would say that all of the data that advertisers gather, it's all for that purpose. So yeah, very important, to show relevant ads. And the display advertising space, right, is slated to grow, even continue to grow. I mean, it's the largest digital ad format that's being served today. I think in 2023 it was estimated to be about $200 billion industry, just display ads, and it's supposed to grow to about 270 billion by 2026. So advertisers want to reach you, and they're actively bidding to reach you in a time when you're thinking about a product, and that's relevant to what they're trying to show to you. So it's very much like a very active industry, and something that is a necessary part of the internet. I think it's like you see all this content and it's paid for somehow, right? You see all this free content and it's got to be paid for by ad revenue. So I see it as a necessary thing that I feel like we can make better, and we can improve, and we can really try to change that perception of display advertising for customers. Because right now, I think there was a recent survey from HubSpot that said like 90+% agreed that ads are more intrusive today than they were 2 or 3 years ago. And also just felt like ads were generally just more annoying in a way. And I don't like that. I think the internet is a place where you can make change happen, and so why don't we change that? Let's change that perception. Let's make let's I don't want to say let's make ads great again, but let's make ads great. But it's true. It's like we're what we say on our webpage. Let's build ads that do more. You know what I mean? So we're really trying to improve that for people.
Well, that's exactly the position you are in now, right? So at Glui, you guys are trying to change that, right? To make ads, well, as fun and as accurate in a sense as they can be to who's receiving them. Let's say I've never heard about Glui. I think I always like to direct this question very directly in a sense like, yes, we can, I can go about it, but really, you will know this better than I would possibly can. What exactly is Glui?
Yeah, good question. So Glui is based off of the term GUI, which is graphical user interface, because that's kind of what we're doing to regular banner ads. We're turning them into user interfaces in a sense. So we bring the landing page experience in ad. So any ad you would see on a website, usually, it's got a call to action. It says click here for X, 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 whatever. You click on it, takes you to a web page. But with Glui, you can actually fill out your information directly within the ad. So typing in your email, your phone number, your name, bringing that landing page to the user right on the content they're in. So they don't have to redirect to another page if they're reading an article or something like that. They see an offer, they can action on that immediately and just continue on their day. So we're really bringing that landing page kind of interactive experience to ads, and part of that is basically building like we like to think of our ads as kind of like micro websites in a sense, if that makes any sense. So the possibilities are endless, I think, with our ads. Obviously, there are limitations from ad networks on what the size of the ad and what you can do directly within them. But we're really trying to push the boundaries to make ads that are more interesting, more interactive, more fun for customers.
Makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned Glui. I couldn't stop thinking about your mascot also. You guys have a mascot, and I have two questions. One is, who invented that? And second is, when is the merch coming out? I want a little Glui.
Merch is coming out soon. We got to get like little Glui plushies or something like that. But that was all the brainchild of our marketing lead, Zoe. I think she just felt like we needed more of kind of a personal, kind of fun touch to our website, and said, why don't we just get a mascot? Everybody likes a little tiny, cute little character. So, Mr. Glui kind of represents like the average conscious consumer. Somebody who's just kind of going about their day, on an article on a website or something like that, sees a product they're interested in. They're privacy conscious. They don't want their data being sold to the highest bidder. They want to see relevant ads. They want to, get in and get out. From whatever they experiencing on the internet. And so we like Mr. Glui, and Mr. Glui can be whoever he wants. There's a little bit of us in Mr. Glui, I say, of all of us.
That's really cool, and it does bring such a fun vibe.
Yeah.
And going back a little bit to the ads there that you mentioned, they are very important indeed. But at the same time, I think everyone would agree that we have a lot of ads. Companies promising like ads being more engaged or interactive. Well, not necessarily interactive, but being more fun. What exactly is Glui's take on how to get there, like to make an ad fun?
Well, it often starts with value exchange. So an ad should offer you something in exchange for what the ad wants you to do, whether it's to fill out your information or do an action. We think fun ads have a combination of value exchange, relevance, like we talked about, a good creative design that aren't so something that obviously looks good. It's not really super intrusive or annoying, and is culturally relevant too. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. I would say you can do ads that have like gamification on them. So like click to shoot down the duck or something like in the ad. I mean that's kind of fun, but it's fun seeing ads that make you go that's pleasant, that's fun, that's funny. Like I'll check that out. That's kind of what we're going for, and a lot of that is up to our creative team. And the creative teams we work with from our clients. We work with ad agencies who, their specialty is really tapping into that kind of cultural moment, pushing out relevant content, and really, part of their larger marketing strategy. And just working with them to kind of create solutions that they really are excited about. You know what I mean? So we had a really great campaign with Works. They're a gardening tool company. They do leaf blowers as well, and we did a competition basically where you could enter your information to just get 20% off or a free leaf blower, and it was hosted on a relevant website. So it was for a website for people who are interested in gardening. The design was flowed well with the rest of the website design. It was a skin, so it went around the article, and it also had our unit was on the side, so you scrolled over and you could just fill out your information directly within there and kind of enter that competition. We really felt like it was easy for the customer. It fit well with the content it was on. It was relevant to the content. It wasn't intrusive, and it had a really strong value exchange too as well. So it provided an incentive to actually fill your information out. And maybe I wouldn't necessarily say that's like super fun, but it's pleasant. We want it to be a pleasant experience. With what we're seeing is most people's interactions with ads are not pleasant. I mean, I think like up to almost 30-40% of people use ad blockers, and especially now with people becoming more privacy aware, and so it's a changing space, especially in the open web display area that really I think is ripe for disruption. And just any sort of kind of small incremental improvements and like the kind of customer perception of these ads is a huge benefit, I think, too. And part of that is we haven't really touched on this yet, but like we're asking for somebody's information, as opposed to like, do you want to be tracked? No, I don't want to be tracked. It's like we're asking for the information. We'd rather ask you basically, do you want to give up your email instead of trying to like track you in some secret behind your back, essentially. So we feel like that's just a better overall experience for customers.
And Austin, that's a common concern, right? Nowadays, privacy and data privacy, especially in the internet, of course. I'm not so knowledgeable about how it happens, but you mentioned that some ads, definitely not what you guys are doing at Glui, but some ads they try and grab information from us, like without us even realizing.
Yeah. So I guess you could liken it to you walk into a store, as in going on a website, And in that store, there are 100 people who know a bunch of information about you already, whether it's kind of your location or maybe some preferences or maybe some cookies attached to you that tell you information about you, and they're all shouting offers at you. Buy this, do this, do this, do this. That's not really like a good experience for customers. And the same kind of happens online on websites, because when you see ads on a website you're on, all of those ads are competing to show their all the advertisers are competing to show their ad to you through a real-time bidding platform, basically. So, company A has $1, they want to bid $1. Company B says, I'll bid $2, and then company A says, I'll do 3, I'll do 5. Basically, just to show the ad to you, essentially. Obviously, the prices vary based off of kind of what what website you're on. Some websites are more relevant than others, but there, I think there's I think the Irish said something about that. I think it was the IAB published or something. Anyway, but when you go onto a website, a single ad auction, that process of bidding involves 100 plus data brokers before even the page loads. Basically, of just there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different players who are passing your data between each other, figuring out which ad to show you, essentially. And the system is it's by design pretty opaque. I don't it's I don't I'm not going to pretend like I understand how all that stuff works, but I do know that there are data brokers, customer data platforms, everything. Every time you purchase a product, or sign up for maybe like you go into a store and sign up for, say like a loyalty program or something like that, that information is going to go to somebody else that's not just, the loyalty program you're signing up for. So we believe in being transparent about where your data is, and asking for consent, at all stages. So, in every one of our Glui ads, we're including terms and conditions, we're including, marketing consent checkboxes. We make it really clear and easy, especially with our clients, that, this is kind of the standard for consent for, GDPR, and in Europe, and in the States, I think it's called CCPA in California, basically kind of the data handling compliance standards, that we strive to be in line with those standards, because we really believe customers they care about that stuff now. I mean, people care about where their data is going. They care about who's viewing it. They feel like they need to be more aware of that, and they want control. So ultimately, we're trying to give customers control of their data, and being very clear about where it's going, how it's being handled, and what's going on. So, yeah.
Yep. Personally, very with you on that one. I mean, that is the internet that we want, right? For us, ourselves, and, well, for everyone pretty much. And going back to good ads then, how would you define a good ad? Like, not based on performance, like, is it, hitting well, but what would you look and say, oh, that's a good ad?
I mean, I'd say ads that I remember 10 seconds after I saw it. Because, we see so many ads every day. I think people estimated you see about like 5,000 ads a day, just online, or, driving your car. I know in the US we have billboards everywhere, but I don't know what it's like in Brazil, but yeah, same thing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, good ads, like, good ads are like culturally relevant. And I was thinking about, I think you had asked me kind of like, what was an ad that I remembered? And I was thinking about like the really silly and goofy ads from like Doritos and Mountain Dew, like back in the day, when it was just like, it would be like the most random thing you could ever think of. I think there was one like the the monkey baby one or something. I don't know if you remember that ad, but basically like just the most random thing you could ever think of, and then they would just like somehow relate it to their product. You know what I mean? And to me, like that hit kind of a cultural moment in this was probably like 2012 to 2015 kind of when the internet was just coming up, and I mean it was established, but I'm saying like kind of our weird kind of meme minded social media discourse, that stuff was kind of just in its infancy, I feel like, and now we're totally okay with seeing like really weird things on our Instagram feed, right? Just like the weirdest thing you could ever think about. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. You see 100 of those a day. But like back then, they really kind of, I feel like it really stood out to me because it was like just funny and silly and goofy when like a lot of other, advertising campaigns were like, look how good our product is. This is what our product does. It can solve so many problems for you. And, Doritos is just like, oh, like here's like somebody turning into a balloon and like flying away or something. I think like the snack food ads like might just not be Doritos, might be other ones too. But that's always thought that was like funny and good ads for me. I guess as a kid, I thought they were silly.
Makes sense. So they were disruptive in a sense, right? I think I still remember the same. I think Old Spice had some weird ads as well.
We definitely did
and. Yeah, and I remember at the time it was funny, exactly like you said. Like we weren't used to seeing companies picking up on that internet randomness, like that weirdness, right? And they were the first. I mean, like someone actually managed to convince the board that they should have someone becoming a flying balloon, right? And here you are remembering that like many years later. So that's.
It's like, I mean, I can just imagine somebody in the boardroom, like like Mad Men style, marketing people, it's like, what do we do for next campaign? Oh, why don't we just turn somebody's family into a centipede after they eat like, new 5 gum or something. It's like,
the 5 gum ones.
The 5 gum ones.
True, 5 gum.
That was a super successful campaign because it was like it made gum sexy again. Or maybe it was never sexy, but like it made gum sexy somehow because it was like this cool experience and the packaging matched it, and like it was different and cool, and it wasn't just like kids chewing bubble gum at the park. That was kind of that is interesting. So those are kind of, I guess, the cultural kind of moments that I think really make successful marketing and campaigns. Is like, and I guess this kind of leads into something we haven't really talked about, was AI. That AI is being used so much right now in just generation of content, but I feel like it doesn't have a thumb on kind of the cultural moment we're in, I guess, in a sense. And that's really kind of where I think a lot of marketers still fit in, in the space. But so yeah.
AI is like a pretty hot topic, and it should be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who's not affected by it positively?
Yeah.
Mostly positively, to be honest. How do you see like the future of advertising and AI? I know it's kind of like this more generalistic, kind of almost philosophical question in a sense, but what's your take on that?
To me, AI still seems like a tool to me. And, tools are used by people to create things, obviously. And so I still see it as like, I don't want it to be a world where AI is creating everything for us, and all we ingest is just AI content. I want this to still have humans behind it. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I still think humans still, they have a better grasp on kind of what's relevant, you know what I mean? And what's interesting and what's fun and what's cool. I use AI every day, you know what I mean? As probably, so do you. It's really streamlined a lot of things for me in my life. But I want it to be something that gives us the space to create artistically, whether it's art, writing, poetry, all that stuff. I don't want it to be a replacement for that. I saw like somebody, I think it was a Twitter post or somebody, they said like, I don't want AI, like I want AI to do my job for me. I want AI to do my dishes and my laundry for me, and I don't want AI to give me enough time to do my dishes and my laundry. essentially. I guess if that kind of explains it. Like AI should give us the space to do things we love. It should not be a replacement for those things, I think. Yeah.
No, almost seems like right now, I mean, with the very recent now, troubles with AI and, the Ghibli studio
Yeah.
art. Not sure if you picked up on that. I mean, that kind of sums up pretty much what you said, right? I mean, that ideally we'd be having time to do art and stuff while AI does the work, not the opposite. Like, we do the work and then we go to AI so it does the art. It is a funny moment, right? And I think it's just the logical way that it's evolving. I mean, it made a lot of sense that the current technology allows you to generate images. Still doesn't allow it to, I don't know, like, do some manual work. But I also really hope that we can, like, get some advancements that allow us to align AI better with these manual things, perhaps, that we're not really into doing,
Yeah.
right?
We've seen a lot of ad creative tools like Adobe. People use Adobe Photoshop for ads too, but like Creative, Banner Flow. These are some of like the pure kind of ad creation tools. I was looking at something Creative released. It was basically like you take your website and you paste the URL for your website into their platform, and it just generates a bunch of ads for you because it just takes the copy from your website, takes images from your website, uses it all as inspiration, and can just pump out a bunch of banner ads for you. And I think it still takes a human to go in and view this kind of stuff and kind of filter through what they like, but it just saves people so much time. Also, with banner ads, especially, like, you need to generate like hundreds, if not thousands, of different versions based off of what region you're in. So if they need to be different language, or they need to show a different sport, maybe that's relevant for that region, or whatever it is, you can now generate that stuff instantly with AI tools. It's weird too, also, because I feel like as we continue to use AI for image, text generation, and video, just generative AI, people's like detection meter for AI is probably going to get more sophisticated, as we move on too. So I think we'll probably see kind of AI. I know it's already happening, but like a little bit of AI fatigue. I know people, when they see an image as AI, maybe this is just me because I'm I look at a lot of AI stuff, and, I'm in this advertising space too, but, they kind of write it off, I guess, as low quality, maybe, in a sense, or like, oh, it didn't take somebody like a graphic designer hours and hours to make this. Why do they care about me if they don't care about, putting time into their creatives? But it's really when you can use AI to, um, you know, improve what people are already making, and allow people, like we said, to have that time to really find the inspirational moment to make stuff that's culturally relevant. I think is where AI shines. Just freeing up people's time to do more interesting stuff. I think that's ultimately what I hope the AI is going, and I think that's what users are going to demand, right? So we've seen it. We've seen AI in these other platforms, and it's ultimately just to save you time and make your team more efficient. That's what it should be doing. So.
And if we connect AI and Glui for a sec, are you guys using AI at any part of your processes? How's that relation like, let's say?
Yeah, so I mean, we use. So I lead the dev team at Glui, and I definitely use AI for product requirement documentation. I use it for helped me to write tickets sometimes. I obviously use it sometimes to respond to emails. In terms of our ads, this is something we're working on right now, is including generative AI into our ads. We're working on a ad builder tool, which will allow users to basically generate ads themselves. We are looking at using machine learning to do dynamic creative optimization for ads as well. So basically, just you choose, 10 different titles, 10 different background images, 10 different calls to action, and then you could even do other things like what color the button is and all these different factors you see in ad. And then you have a machine learning algorithm basically cycle through all of those to try to find the best combination of what is going to be the most relevant ad to get people to click on. That's not, people, I don't, I'm not too familiar if people are using generative AI and that's in that area yet, like allowing generative AI to just make stuff that's automatically shown to people. I still think there's a human element of people reviewing what's content shown out there, especially because a lot of brands are very sensitive, of their brand image. They can't have a generative AI, just like glitch out and show something crazy like on an ad. But so it's definitely a space that we're very interested in, and we definitely use it in a lot of our workflows, and we're trying to build out Gen AI features for our users too as well, for our clients.
That makes sense. I struggle to imagine AI coming up with like one of those Doritos campaigns, like kind of or Five Gum, and Five Gum. That was I also an interesting fact. I heard about that one. I have never seen the ads. Like they've never targeted the Brazilian market, but because it became a meme, I got exposed to the memes. So now I know what that is, and they never even thought of like targeting a Brazilian guy, just a meme watching or looking Brazilian guy. So that moment is tough. But do you believe, Austin, that in the future, or do you see in the future AI being advanced enough that it can somehow be part of the creative process?
Well, it already is part of the creative process, but if it just replaces the creative process, I hope not, because I feel like creativity is just a innate human thing. You know what I mean? And if we're making AI that's truly creative, then it's going to just replace us. You know what I mean? So maybe we have more things to worry about if that happens. But as you guys do graphic design, UX, UI design, I'm sure you have AI involved in some part of your creative process. But I don't think it'll ever, hopefully not completely replace it. It's just gonna make it improve it and give people more space to be creative ultimately. That's my dream. So yeah, I think good ads are part culture, like we talked about, part timing with intuition, taking risks and stuff, and I think that's a very human thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that human fine tuning, right, of creativity it's a very fine line, and I don't know, it feels to me like there's this kind of like these underlying human things that make some ideas work, and that I struggle to understand how AI would pick up on that, because they're not written codes. It's not like it can analyze what you're thinking. It can analyze what humans have written, what we have created in a sense, but I don't think it can analyze or understand the patterns that led to that creation itself. I know it's a very deep idea to discuss, but a funny parallel... sorry.
No, go ahead.
A funny parallel that I had is I've asked a couple diverse industry people, like from marketing to sales to education, and I always tend to ask questions about AI in the future, and it is the first time that I get a response, or at least a part of the response, in where you said that if it replaces creativity, for instance, we have bigger problems, and that is such a cool view. I mean, not cool in the sense that it's nice, cool as in interesting, is that there's this point where we're imagining AI advancements where if it does answer to a question like, I don't know, would in your specific market it be a problem or a solution? But like, just imagine that if we reach that point, like the world is probably going to be looking a lot different, not just for that market, but like overall. Like if it reaches the point of creativity, it's hard to even imagine, right, what the world would be looking like.
Yeah, and I think to me it seems like creativity is like taking stuff that you've seen in the past and making something new out of it. You know what I mean? Whereas AI is kind of like just analyzing what's the past and all the data it's received, but I don't know if it necessarily makes something new out of it. It just kind of responds to you in like the best way that it thinks it should. So maybe someday when we have what is OpenAI AGI? They're AGI. So that's like the ultimate goal, right? I mean, maybe maybe a AGI will be creative, but yeah, I do think there's a lot more problems we'll have in the world if, if suddenly, an AI can do all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, just thinking about like, uh, I use Instagram. I'm on Instagram Reels and stuff like that, and the stuff that I think is funny, I don't think is AI generated. I mean, it's probably just some like teenager like who owns like a meme account or something like that, and he's just kind of edgy. I mean, but it's like I. I don't think that teenager is going to be replaced by AI anytime soon. I hopefully I still think people are going to be involved in that stuff. I did want to touch on one thing that I forgot to mention is there's the AI search tool that Google is putting out is really relevant to our industry right now, because right now Google is, when you look up, this might be kind of a pivot, but when you look up something, right, usually you would get a bunch of articles competing, with SEO, whatever, to get you to click on them and look up, what are the top 10, what are the top 10 snowboards or something like that. But now when you look up something, Google over 20% of the time, I think will return their AI generated response. I mean, for a question of things. And this is not driving traffic to publisher websites. And so right now there's kind of a problem in the industry where people are mad at Google because they aren't driving people to their websites. They're just taking content from those websites and displaying it on the top of the the query page. So it's an interesting time to be in this space because AI is affecting how we deal with the creative process, but it's also dealing with just ad serving and ad performance, right? It's so weird how it touches all those different aspects. But Google being like the huge beast that they are in the industry, they could snap their fingers and put the change the industry like that. With the whole cookie thing, which happened a few years ago, where they're saying they're getting rid of third-party cookies and now they're not, and so, but it's interesting. That's another reason why I think AI is such a disruptor in the space, because it affects so many different aspects of it. And Google being kind of they want to have the best AI. They're going to push it everywhere they can. And so far, one of the biggest uses they found it is showing people content on a Google search. So it's really interesting where it's going. And I'm not going to be the one to say I know exactly what's going to happen, but just seeing what kind of other players in the space are doing, it's going to be used to speed up efficiency for teams. It's going to use to serve better, more relevant content to customers, and hopefully, it's going to give us that space to be creative, like we've been talking about.
It's interesting, and in a sense, it's almost a revolution on itself. Like, I mean, Google's trying to give you exactly what you want, which is exactly like an answer to a question that you might be Googling for. But by doing that, they're completely ignoring all of the websites that would have that answer, and that up to like what, a year ago, you would have had to click on it.
Yeah.
It almost makes me feel like, are we on a pivoting moment?
Yeah,
because of that.
I think we are. Because it's interesting because before they had that AI response, you look up a question. I often felt like I wasn't finding a clear answer, so it was mainly just I have a question, and then I would tag Reddit onto to the end of it, right? I know, so, because Reddit is like, it's like that. It's like somebody has had that problem before. Somebody somebody in the comments thinks they have the answer, and if they don't have the answer, somebody below that comment is going to correct them and say with the real answer. You know what I mean? And so, like, people, I think Google kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit, because they are they have these SEO algorithms that they're just websites that all they try to do is game that system and serve you as many ads as possible. And they bury the answer to the question, down at the bottom of the page. You have to scroll through 100 different ads, and just an article about there's somebody's grandma, and you're just trying to get like the recipe to their chocolate chip cookies or something. It's so I think I think consumers, like like that. I think people are liking that response more, that AI response, and I think it really, people are using Google to answer quick questions, right? And Google knows that, and they don't want to be replaced by ChatGPT. So what else are they going to do? And then it puts them in a weird place with the publishers because publishers want people going to their websites, seeing their content, and viewing ads because that's how they make money. So we are totally at a pivot point right now, and I don't think anybody really knows exactly where we're going to go. Google is saying that they're going to make this right. They're going to pay people to, to like use content from, essentially. So like if Google's AI is pulling content from your website, like they'll pay you. And they're just saying that now. And there's a rise of generative engine optimization. I think GEO. I think. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's basically like optimizing the content on your website for AIs, essentially, to read that content. So like you want to get onto Google's AI response, essentially. So you use GEO optimization to have your content more likely to be analyzed by whatever AI tool that person is searching through. That's something that's pretty new to the industry. That it's kind of like the antithesis to like SEO. So
Yeah, I was not ready for that info. I mean, I wasn't adding the possible end of SEO to my 2025 list.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah, it's basically just optimizing content for AI-driven search engines like Google is now. So that's kind of an interesting space. And another trend too we're seeing is people are searching stuff more on Instagram, on TikTok, just so people optimizing their content so it can show up on those search engines too, right? Because before it was all about Google, and now it's like people are searching your stuff on Reddit, they're searching your stuff on Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and all that stuff. So I feel like the internet right now is kind of fragmenting a little bit. These walled gardens, these social media platforms. I don't consider them the open web. It's kind of a closed system. They're growing so much that most people spending time on the internet are in one of those walled gardens. They're no longer just on Google searching for stuff, things are definitely changing, and that's what's really cool about this space is things change fast, and it leaves it ripe for disruption. But it can also be like really hectic, and whatever solution you come up with could be irrelevant in a few years because somebody changes something. So it makes it challenging, but it also makes it interesting, and it makes it good for the opportunity. So
Austin, changing the subject a little bit, but I think it's an interesting question. If you were not involved with Glui and making fun ads at the moment, do you have any other idea of a potential, market you'd be exploring?
Well, I thought about becoming a snowboard instructor, or just going off into the wilderness and doing one of those jobs that you see on like those like blue collar reality TV shows you see on Discovery Channel, like ice road truckers, like the gold miners, the the fishermen, the tuna guys, deadliest catch, it's something like that, where it's like you're really working with your hands doing something, like just getting out of the whole tech space, like cutting myself off from whatever feed I'm looking at. That may be something I would do. But in terms of kind of with space, I thought about just, I don't know, I think of like random app ideas every once in a while, but I'm interested in technology and its kind of intersection with human experience, I guess, and kind of the I feel like right now, personally, I feel a little bit let down by a lot of the platforms that I've been using since I was a kid. I've been using Reddit, I've been using YouTube, Instagram, and to me, it seems like they've become a little bit, they aren't really what they once were. You know what I mean? Where like I would go on Instagram and I would see, stuff for my friends, and but now it's kind of just like content feeds, essentially, just to keep you on as long as possible to serve you ads. And YouTube in a similar way, but and Reddit especially now. I think they got bought out, and now they're just pushing. They just keep pushing the boundaries in terms of like, what they're feeding. It's like a constant flow of information that. I would want to work in a space where I am pushing kind of let's say, I want to get back to the roots of the internet, which is connecting people, educating people. Now that we have the internet, it's like you can be anywhere in the world and you can learn about almost anything. So let's make that kind of a reality. I don't know if you've heard of like the dead internet theory, but I think there was basically some think tape or research group. Basically, they said that they estimated that up to 50% of the traffic on internet is bots or AI. And now, especially with AI generated content, most of the stuff you're seeing probably isn't made by a human, and most of the comments you're seeing aren't human. I want to, that's why I think, we've seen the rise of more kind of micro communities. Discord has obviously blown up in the past 5 years, and, any sort of kind of niche interest community, like you can find that on Discord. That's what I always liked about Reddit, is that, you could be on a niche subreddit and be, super into something and be with like-minded people who want to talk about that subject. Those are the kind of things that the internet is great for. And I would like to be in an industry that pushes that and continues that kind of, just that kind of goal of connecting people, bringing people together, sharing information, sharing knowledge, and really being kind of like a forum for learning and creativity, which is what I have really enjoyed using the internet for. So, yeah, I guess I guess I didn't really give a kind of clear answer, but that's what I would want to be involved in.
Loved your answer.
Yeah.
Yep. If I were to be a snowboarding instructor in Brazil, I'd probably go bankrupt. We don't. I think we have snow like once every 5 years in a very specific part of the country. But yeah, that was.
Well, you guys got surfing and like beach volleyball, and I don't know. You can't. There's a lot of jungle, right, in Brazil, so you can't really play a lot of sports there. But
that's a lot of jungle, man. Yep, it's never ending. Yeah. But the dead internet theory, that makes a lot of sense, and I've been using Reddit also at least for a decade now, and I would say it's even probably my favorite like social network in a sense. But even Reddit is like becoming this scrolling infinite thing instead of like focusing on the communities in a sense, right? I tend to realize that more and more of my time spent there is now actually scrolling instead of actively engaging in meaningful discussions, which is what I could swear. I think that was my experience like 2 years ago, 3, right? That is interesting. And I'd like to go back to a specific thing that you said previously in our conversation. You've mentioned Mad Men, the series. I would say I have a view of advertising in a sense, very biased by that series. But in your vision, being in the industry, how do you see advertising? How did it change? Like from, I don't know.
From the Mad Men era?
What we had. Oh, yeah. I know it's a long answer, but like, what's the core changes, you'd say?
Well, I think it's become a lot more, I don't think it's as formal, as it was in that TV show. I think it's gotten a lot more, but it's definitely not casual, because you're dealing with, millions of dollars, huge campaigns, big brands that really care about, how they're perceived in the world. But the thing is, like, it's a weird combination, and also a very interesting combination of business decisions with big strategy decisions, a lot of money moving around, and technology, looking at data and trying to understand, what's going on. But also, like, there's that creative aspect of it that you need to have for a successful marketing. I think it's just necessary. Like, you need to have creative people on your team. Glui isn't really like I wouldn't consider us like an agency in a sense. We're more of kind of ad tech provider, but it's still necessary. Any agency, like, you need to have somebody, like, you need to have a 20 to 25-year-old who's on TikTok and knows the biggest trends and, knows what's cool and knows, like what, what, what the people want, I guess, in a sense. That's what I think makes it more interesting, is like that intersection between like human creativity and, pure data and metrics and data analysis and like big money moving around and all that stuff. So it's like, I guess it's comparing it to other industries like, finance or law or, biotech or something like that. It's definitely a lot less formal. I've been to Ad Week, a couple of times, and you have big celebrities coming through, and everybody's kind of selling. It's your image is super important. How you dress, and you got to be cool, and people like to throw big parties and stuff for all the major players, and so it's fun. It's fast paced, and I think the creativity aspect is what makes it cool. Because it has to be cool. Because cool is not just like cool as like I'm wearing a leather jacket and riding a motorcycle. Cool. It's more like I'm relevant and I'm confident and I'm here for the moment. Kind of. That's I think that's what a lot of advertisers strive for.
Makes sense. Austin, what would you say is like the biggest problem right now in your industry that you're trying to solve?
Okay, so channels, so like marketing channels are more fragmented than ever, it feels like. There are way more touch points than there used to be, I think. This isn't necessarily a problem, but I think it leads open for a lot of opportunity. People, used to, in the early internet days, they'd be on the internet, see ads on the internet, but they get the ads in their phone book or on TV or, on the billboard. But now it's like there's ads on TV, they have ads on your podcast, there's ads on, streaming services you use, there's ads on YouTube, there's display ads, there's ads kind of everywhere, because people are using technology everywhere. And so marketers are struggling to like balance all of those, I think, in a sense, and really create like a cohesive message across all those different channels. I would also say that, people are more privacy aware than ever. We talked about this, like, as the people who grew up using the internet get older, they see and things like come out about mishandling of data. It seems like almost every other month there's some big data leak, happens. Right now, I think X is going through something similar. So, that stuff is just going to keep happening, and people are just going to become more aware of that. I think, like people, there's been a big shift, I think, with social media too. Obviously, like people aren't just I guess in the display advertising space, like you have things like digital advertising spend is going up, but it's being allocated more towards social media now than it kind of ever was, and other channels like podcasts and connected television too as well. Retail media is another one of those things. So like ads you see when you look up something on Amazon, obviously there's like sponsored products. So there's so many different ways that you can reach people. It's hard for advertisers to figure out which one they should prioritize. And even something like social media too. I was reading that people are less into like influencer based kind of sponsorship things, and people are more into just customer based things, right? Because now people see influencers as almost kind of part of the system. It's kind of like they are, I guess, they don't maybe trust their opinions as much but they do trust the opinions of kind of users, people who are just average people, right? And same thing goes with like employees too. There's a lot more like employee generated content that's being pushed out now. It's like, what's behind the scenes at IKEA, employees will film like their day to day or something like that. Those kind of things that humanize people and humanize brands are super important right now, because I think people living in this, hyper, focused kind of feed driven internet age, they're really craving for more kind of human. They want their brands to be human, right? And I think it can be, and advertisers sometimes struggle with becoming human in that kind of in the space. So they're really looking for ways to kind of connect with their audience in that way.
That's cool. I have a question to ask also. Glui values privacy for users, data privacy a lot. Is that a trade-off for profit? Like, would a company lose profit because they're careful about data in a sense?
So, I mean, you can make money just like selling your customers' data, to data brokers who put them into these big pools, and they'll use that information to target you, which I think a lot of, we don't do that. Like, I think a lot of brands do that. I don't know exactly how that whole industry works necessarily, but I know it's a very big industry. I think we lose. I would say, like, we lose revenue when a customer doesn't fill out their information because they don't know where their data is going to go. You know what I mean? So to me, I'd like to view it as we are giving the customers a better experience because they understand, where their data is going and how we handle it, and they are volunteering their information because they're interested in whatever offer this ad has to provide, and that is going to lead us to more revenue instead of kind of backhanding them and selling their information to a third party. I would say no. I don't think being transparent about how you handle privacy is losing us any money. So I think brands understand that now too. You've seen Apple, like, their push privacy. They kind of read the the writing on the wall, and the customers are becoming more aware of their privacy data and everything. So now they are really, they include it in, like, you go to the Apple settings and they say, your privacy is safe, it's encrypted, they have ads that say about your privacy and all your information and stuff like that. And I think hopefully I don't think they've had any major data leaks or anything like that, but it's almost like a selling point, now. It's like that your privacy is valued by us. So because that's what customers care about.
Love to know it. Love to know that Glui is part of this, let's say, more secure and fun environment and internet for all of us in the future.
We're working on something right now too. We're working on a kind of a privacy tool where users can see, like, why this ad was shown to you. So looking at seeing, like, basically within the ad, this ad was shown to you because you meet this criteria, like being open and honest about why this ad was delivered to you right here in this moment, because we really think that customers care about that stuff. So that's something in the works.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. I would love to be able to know, like, where some ads come from. I think we all kind of questions ourselves, right? You start talking about buying, I don't know, a small boat or something, like a kayak, and then suddenly that's all you see. Like, how? How?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're actually listening to you. It does feel like that sometimes, but oftentimes it's based off of just the context of what websites you're visiting, what products you purchased in the past. They can make guesses about what demographic you're from, and get that information there. But it does seem really kind of weird sometimes when you're talking about something and then suddenly you just start seeing ads about it. So
in some cases, I love it.
Yeah, like, I know.
I mean, it makes sense.
Well, that's that's relevance. That's the thing. It's like you saw a relevant ad. They're reading your mind. No.
Oh man, you heard it here first, guys. Austin, I wanted to thank you very much for your time and for joining us today and sharing a bit of the knowledge in the industry and explaining to us a little bit of what Glui is building. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I really appreciate you having me on. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you soon, Austin.
All right. See ya.